So a number of years ago, when I was a dean at a 6-12 school, I was part of actually a turnaround team that that um, that took over that school. It was the team was a principal, a assistant principal, and myself as the dean. We went into the school, and when we went to the school, we had a mandate of really a year to turn things around. The school was being slated to be closed down. And the crazy thing about it, the school was only 3 years old. It was open as a 6-12 school, and by the end of its second year, things were dismal. And literally, it was one of those situations where it was like, listen, if something doesn't happen within the next year to show growth, the school will be closed down. And I can tell you what my role was, as the dean, and really focused on culture. The school had developed a really bad reputation within the community that it was sitting in, and because these at that point in time, these 6th and 7th graders were a little out of control. And it wasn't that they were out of control; it's more so that there wasn't any real culture established of expectation of what it meant to be a student in that school and what was expected of them from the adults there. The previous leadership has spent a lot of time investing more in making things fun. And there's nothing wrong with fun. Listen, I love fun, but just making things fun and using fun as a bribe for behavior is not a good idea, because the reality is this: life is not always fun. So what happens when things are not fun? And when situations don't warrant a fun response. So that was the situation at this school. So when I got there, the first thing that I did was I tried to figure out who the main players were. Because in any school, when you have behavioral issues or culture issue, there are main players, whether they're adults or they're certain parents or kids that tend to eat up most of the brain space around why culturally, the school is a little dysfunctional. And what was interesting, that there were literally, let's say, about 12 boys. And these boys were great kids, like I'm telling you, great kids. And fast forward to today, every single one of them are amazing, functioning grown men now. They're in their mid-20s. Mid-20s? Yeah, is it mid-20s? Oh, wow, no, and they're in their late 30s, because that group of kids actually graduated from high school in 2013. So it's about to be 10 years. So if they were 17, 18 that time, so now they're like 20, 28, 27, 28. So yeah, they're pushing 30 now. And I remember back then, these young men, they were just, and the thing was, they weren't doing anything too crazy. They were just rambunctious. And because there were no rules, and there was no rules for such a long time, they had a hard time just adjusting to rules. So I came in as a dean. I would do things like, detentions, and we had a new school rules set up, and there were behavioral intervention plans put in place. And that was all I was addressing, like how to change behavior using structures that I was taught and had implemented in other schools. PBIS, which is PBIS, behavior, no, PBI. I don't know why I don't remember these things. I feel like after I walked away from the school building, all these acronyms are lost to me. But PBIS is a program that allows you to use incentives to kind of like change behavior. So we were putting all these into play, and nothing was working. Nothing was working. And one day I was like, okay, what am I doing here? Because again, it wasn't like, these were good boys. It's just that they just weren't responding to all that. Mind you, they were grounded in fun. That was their main thing. Fun. So I was like, okay, now what should I do here? So I'll tell you what I decided to do. First of all, I want to tell you where this thought came from. In my brain, I thought about college. I was thinking about college and how you had all these young men who were coming from all around the country, and at least my group of friends, they were coming from New York City, they were coming from California, from down south, DC, Atlanta, all these different places. And we were all products of our communities, right? And we came together and we bonded, from different spaces. And the thing that I remember that stood out is the fact that we formed a brotherhood because we were in college in a space that we were not used to. So we knew that we had to rely on each other to survive in these spaces. So I was like, how do I take these 12 boys and create a situation where they would bond around brotherhood and not just, antics and behavior and wilding out. So I thought hard. And one day I was at American Eagle, just shopping, and there was a sale, and they had these little skinny ties. It was a skinny blue tie with a stripe and little imprints of skull and crossbones. There's little imprints of it all through the tie. I looked in the back, and they were going for like, I think $1. So it was like one of those like, hey, we gotta get rid of these. I looked in there, and there were literally like 16 ties. So I was like, I don't know. My brain just said, okay, you gotta get these ties for your boys. I started calling them, these are my boys. These were the kids, these young men I need to focus on. So I bought all the ties there. And I was driving home, I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna start a club, like a fraternity, something to unify these young men. So I just kind of like haphazardly thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna create a club. I'm calling it the Bad Boy Club, because everybody kept on saying these were the bad boys, right? These boys were always getting in trouble. They were the bad boys, and I thought to myself, like, Bad Boy, like Bad Boy Record, like the hip hop group, and I was like, being a bad boy doesn't have to be a bad thing, because you could be a bad boy. Like, when you say Muhammad Ali was a bad man, so I used a play on words on that. So the next time I was in school, I got them all together during lunchtime, and I bought pizzas, and I was like, listen, we're gonna do something new. And I presented to them that I want to spend more time with them and get to know them. And what we'll be doing is during lunchtime, at least twice a week, we would leave campus, but there was a park across the street. I would take them with me to the park, and we'll play different games and get to know each other and stuff like that. And they were like, okay, okay. And I was like, but I told them off the bat, the symbol of this club is going to be a tie. So I went into my bag and pulled out the ties. I gave each of them a tie, and I want each other to rock a tie. And every time we leave campus on those 2 days a week, you have to wear your tie. The school is a uniform school. So and part of the uniform was a collared shirt. And I mean, some of the kids got like long sleeve, button down Oxfords. A lot of them had polos. But I was like, all you need is a collar. Throw that tie and that polo. So I told them how to tie a tie. And twice a week we would leave campus to go off-site. But then when we went off-site, before we went off-site, I was trying to think, what are we going to do out there that's not corny? And at that point in time, I started playing golf. So I brought my golf clubs, and I was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to play. I was just making things up on the fly, and I bought the golf clubs to school, and I had enough clubs. I had enough of my my irons to where each of the boys could have could share a club, and we would play games like I had the little wiffle ball golf clubs, and we would play like a bootleg 9-hole, with like these discs I put on in the park where they had to get the ball to. So I was teaching them how to play golf and the rules of golf, but at the same time, as they were doing this, I would ask them. I would give them a topic as they were playing playing the strokes. A topic for them to discuss. It would be stuff like, what is the best, your favorite person in your family? What is the best memory you have? When was the last time you did X, Y, Z? All these different questions, and to have them talk to each other. And what I would do each time we were out there, I would split my time between two boys, and I would just rotate every time we went out, so I got to know them and talk to them. And what was interesting was, in doing that, over the course of weeks, these boys start to chill out. And right before my eyes, I saw them kind of like establish, maybe what it was like a sense of pride, but they were part of something. And because it was just the 12 of them, other kids were like, how come we're not part of that? It's not fair. They always get in trouble, and they get to go outside and do all these different things. But that was the point, because they were always getting in trouble, they weren't allowed to be part of certain things. They were not trusted to go on field trips. They were not trusted to be in different spaces. They were always expected to be in trouble. But now it was reversing, because every kid, all the other kids wanted to be where they were, and now they were no longer getting in trouble. It was interesting. And the thing is this, overall. I created a space that made these young men feel special. even though I was just trying to figure something out, looking back, in how, you know how they say hindsight's 2020, I was literally creating something, a space for them to feel special, to not feel like they were just bad and rotten because they were just being boys, and without any structure, they were doing what boys do without structure. But here, because I created a space for them, they had structures and rules, and if they wanted to continue to participate, they had to follow all these rules. Guess what happened? Because they wanted to be there, they were following the rules. But at the same time, what was more important was their behavior was shifting, their sense of self was shifting. And at the end of the day, these young men, you know, became leaders in that school. And to the point, and yes, that school went on to become a full 6 to 12. And by the time these young men were in high school, these were the young men. Like, it was funny because that whole entire project lasted that year. But moving forward, what I realized, I needed to create spaces and clubs and situations that allowed our kids to really express themselves, and something that they want to do that allowed them to exercise that intrinsic motivation to do better. So those young men, man, I'll tell you, one of them is an amazing poet and becoming nationally acclaimed. Another one, you know, a couple of them ended up serving in the military. We're talking about one of them right now is working in Hollywood. I want to say they all went to college, except for those who went to the military. I think every single one of them went to college and has graduated. And I'm sharing this story because when we're dealing with kids who have behavioral issues, let's stop just attacking the behavior. Let's instead create an environment where they can thrive in and they love being in, and then they will have a reason, a motivation to want to do better. And not only do better, be part of making that space a success. And that's what I discovered. And I think it's one of those things that we need to really spend and invest time in. A couple of ties and some golf clubs, and these bad boys became bad boys, and better yet, bad men. Like Muhammad Ali would say, he's a bad man. These young men are doing amazing in life, and I just wanted to share that story real quick. I know it was not a quick story, but something for you to think about. And when we're addressing the needs of our young people, don't just attack the behavior. Create an environment that will allow them to thrive, and then watch the behavior change. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to y'all later. Uche Njoku, Sneaker Principal. Peace.